there. Thank you so much for choosing Citizen TV on this 21st day of June 2022. My name is Sam Kituko and I want us to have a conversation about the latest in the road to elections, but also looking at what's happening on the campaign trail. And I begin by looking at the two dailies. On the front page of the Daily Nation, their pain points. They're talking about the places that Raila Odinga and William Ruto have emphasized on in their tours. You will see what's happening in Western. Ruto has been there 22 times this year. Raila Odinga 14 times. In the Rift Valley, especially the Mar region, William Ruto has been there some 21 times. Raila Odinga 15 times. In Central Kenya, William Ruto has been there 36 times. Raila Odinga 15 times. That is more than double. And of course, talking about the reasons why this is happening at a time that we're just about 49 days to the general election. At the front page of the Standard, myth of youth vote and must. They're talking about political parties have raised massive resources to the youth vote on August 9, but IBC records show majority of voters are above 35 years, and this could force change of strategy. Is it that you didn't know this? We'll be talking about that with the panelists here in studio. I want to introduce them. Herman Manyora is a political commentator and also a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning to you, Sam.
How are you doing?
Wonderful.
Great. Then you have Joshua Changwoni. He is the executive director of CRECO, that is a Constitution and Reform Education Consortium. Good morning.
Good morning, Sammy.
And it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I think I haven't hosted you
Thank you.
before. We are still expecting Joshua Kipto, who is the Speaker of the Nandi County Assembly. As soon as he's able to join us, he'll be here on board to have a conversation about this. Let me begin with a bit of politics before I can get to what happened yesterday with election preparedness. And Herman, when you look at that front page of the Daily Nation of the tours that have been made by the two leading presidential candidates, what does that tell you? And is it will more visits mean more votes in the next 48 days?
Of course, you visit to look for votes, and places you think you need to go there often, you go more often than perhaps you should. But again, the visit could mean I'm going there because if I left it to you, then you could mess everything. So you'll find Raila going to a place basically because he feels Ruto has been kind of getting hold of the area in a way that if he doesn't go to undo what Ruto has done, then it could spell doom for him. So sometimes moves are for countering, sometimes just to make sure you keep reminding the people that you need their vote, you are their person. So well, that is obvious, and of course there will be areas where you are.
But from your experience, what is the correlation between tours versus convincing now 22 million registered voters?
You know, it's a mixed bag, because sometimes you go there hoping to convince. When you go there, your team tells you we were at 40%, now we are at 45. Let's move there again to push it to 50. Sometimes it works like that. Sometimes it is to keep your opponents busy. So, for example, Ruto can run all over the country knowing he is more energetic than Raila and hoping to tire him out. Sometimes it works like that. Sometimes the other way around, you know.
Okay. Yeah. And for you, Joshua, as you look at this, I'm sure you have observed a couple of elections in this country, but do visits translate to convincing voters, or it has to take a deeper conversation than that?
Yeah, Sammy, my analysis of this from what Professor said is that I would look at it deeply. What characterizes these regions even which have been mentioned, because when you see one of it is central, probably the issue of the search for the running mate was also a factor that also informed this, because if you look at even the decisions that were made by the two principals, I mean, they chose one of these, and even you look at the alliances in terms of Western, Central, and all that, you know, the grouping of the political parties, you would see that these are areas of interest. And also the other factor could be that these are the vote-rich zones in our country.
Right.
That if you are able to get, you know, a greater percentage of this, it means that you have a greater, chances of, gaining votes. But visits as physical and, trying to convince people in Kenya, I think our politics is largely informed by presence, the visibility of the candidate.
Right.
Because your absence would simply mean, but we don't see that person. I mean, that is how Kenyans probably interpret,
Would you know how many people are reached in such kind of rallies, like a percentage out of the 22 million registered voters? Would you have an estimate?
I think as an organization, as CRECO, we've been monitoring this very closely. And currently we have a monster called Disinformation, including making up crowds. So currently we have a mixed, observation where probably, and you must have even seen, I think a few days ago in Western, where there was a lot of photoshops and expressions that some people were transported from one place to the other just to build the crowd, or there is even a digital manufacture of crowds. So none can be able to be said that this is the person who marshaled this big crowd because of this monster called disinformation. It's a new thing. I mean, it's a new thing just to picture, and it has even found space in the media. In videos or stills, or how? In videos, in stills, all this.
Interesting.
There's something else, Sam. When you visit an area, it shows, above looking for the votes, sometimes it does show that you are not so sure, and therefore you are trying to make sure that you get the people, and if you have them, you keep them together. Now, it may injure a candidate. For example, let's look at William Ruto. If he were to go to Rift Valley, his Kericho, the 30 times he has gone to Central, that would be crazy. People wouldn't understand. Equally there for Sam, when he goes to Central 31 times, when Gachagua comes in Mount Kenya, and the Ruto does go to Mount Kenya, it sends the wrong signal. The advisor should also tell him. It sends the signal that the place is no longer safe for him. He's now fighting for space on the mountain. So those visits must be calculated not to send that image of a person who is now put on the defense, because it was always assumed Mount Kenya belonged to William Ruto. So if he's going this many times, and if Gachagua is camping there, it shows they have been put on their defense.
Is that so, Joshua? You think so?
Okay, it could be right in the sense that, our political class have zoned this country, which is unfortunate, that one would believe that this is my stronghold, and this place is secure. I need to go out and secure more votes. But I think that is a culture that we need to defeat.
Okay.
In the sense that each candidate should be able to be free to move around this country and fight for votes without necessarily balkanizing the country to say, this is my stronghold, or this is where it belongs to me. And of course, that is a recipe to chaos.
Okay.
Where if one candidate feels threatened that so-and-so is trying to penetrate here, you would see that they would use other, crude means to secure that particular area. And we've seen cases for that matter.
Okay.
So as Prof is saying that, candidates try to, monitor the places they feel it belongs to them. And more visits would be the handing zones for votes, because they would have had a very strong belief to say, certain areas is protected for me, I need to go out.
Okay. I'm just looking at the latest figures of TIFA poll that would show that there's been a bit of shift in as far as alliance or allegiance is concerned. I want us now to make transition and take a look at the story that you'll see on the front page of the Standard, the myth of youth vote en masse, but also in greater detail what happened yesterday. Let's listen to the chairperson of IEBC, that is Wafula Chebukati, who was speaking yesterday. We'll be sure to listen to him, but also talking about the figures of what appears to be voter register of 22.1 million registered voters. 13 million of those are aged 35 and above, meaning that the youth vote between 18 and 34 thereabout is 39%. As we to listen to Wafula Chebukati, Herman Manyora, I mean, is this a shocker? Because yes, fine, the population is 75% young, but when it comes to the voter population, the scales appear to turn, of course, in favor of the older voters above 35. Are you surprised, or this has been the trend?
You wouldn't be surprised for a number of reasons. In fact, when we were doing this latest voter registration, we were targeting 6 million. I think we got about 2.5 million. And the people we were targeting were mainly young people. People who should be interested in the affairs of this country, because this is their country. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. That they didn't register. Secondly, usually beginner candidates, I call them beginner candidates, those who are running for the first time, always get very excited with youth, you know? Very excited with motorcycle, reflector jackets and all over the market. But then when the votes come in, the fellows rarely vote anyway. So youth are very good in a revolution, when there is a revolution. They take direct charge of things, the energy. But when it comes to democratic expression,
right,
they rarely do what is expected of them. And I think we can't blame them. We have messed the country so much. The young people are so disillusioned. They don't have jobs. They don't see a future. Sometimes they don't see the sense in politics, and we must revive that hope in the youth.
Right. Okay. Of course, valid questions there. But Joshua, when you're reflecting on, because the Constitution allows that freedom of expression, freedom of association, there are political rights that Kenyans have, even the young Kenyans. What could be the problem? Because as he says, the turnout of Kenyans, young Kenyans coming out to register as voters was pretty low, despite all the efforts that IBC was putting in place. Where is this missing link that the country is not moving with its youth?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sabi. We've been interrogating this matter of, I mean, they call it youth apathy. But for me, I don't believe in youth apathy. I think the problem here, and during the IEBC Phase 1 enhanced voter registration, there was a low, percentage in terms of youth turnout to register as voters. And we interrogated this matter, and even we discussed publicly. And we found out that, the strategy that was used to reach out to the youth, first of all, was the problem. Because you cannot go to village polling stations to look for the youth, whereas the youth are in colleges, they are in the streets looking for jobs. I mean, there should have been creative ways of reaching the youth. And now you see the youth occupy online spaces. They are not in physical spaces, like in those places, like in the villages where we have the majority of the polling stations. So that was one of the problems. Then the other thing is a connection, a benefit connection of livelihood to the voting by the youth. I mean, there is a disconnect there. And now there is even an enhanced conversation among the youth that people have been participating in voting. It's not, realizing to increase in terms of number of, employment opportunities, false promises. And you remember even in 2013 how the youth were promised the 6 billion just in case there was no rerun. The youth have never seen this money. I mean, and even the programs.
It was put in the Wezo program.
Yes, but of course the youth would want it to be directly translated into a benefit to them, in their day-to-day livelihood.
Okay.
But so the youth feel cheated in the sense that, and of course, the constitution that we have is not compulsory to register as a voter. It's not even compulsory to vote. So
are the older generation not cheated?
The older generation, are more patriotic. And I think that is another subject that we need to interrogate. Because, they have seen Kenya grow with previous elections, and there are examples to that effect, where when you look at the elections of the 80s and the 90s, which was witnessed by the older generation, it's not the same as the one that we have now. I mean, and you know, there's an appreciation for that matter. But the kind of the lifestyle the youth are leading now, you know, their thinking is a bit faster.
Right.
Their solution to their problems should be instant. You know, that is how they think. And for me, these elections participation has never connected to their day-to-day solutions to the problems that the youth face in this country.
Okay. And of course, we're still waiting to hear what Wafula Chebukati had to say yesterday. I just want to take a quick look at some of the statistics that we have, because now he says that there will be 46,232 polling stations in this election. And of course, he was also comparing the data that they have of voters versus the identity cards that have already been issued, which was 29.5. So it means that there are about 5 or so million Kenyans that have not registered as voters. So that meaning that there are also an increment in the number of registered voters in the diaspora. Now it's 10,444, up from 4,200. The prisons up from 5,000 to 7,483. But Herman, when you listen to Wafula Chebukati, just slightly over 10 days ago, because that was on 8th of June, he came out alongside the KPMG auditors and said that they had noticed there were challenges with over 1 million registered voters, or rather records of voters, that showed that there was a bit of duplication of records, or persons that had registered with invalid documentation or IDs that are not theirs. And now after resolving, it settles down from 22.5 million to 22.1 million. Are you confident in the resolution and the explanation by IEBC?
What they say seems to make sense. I have no reason to doubt them. One, for example, if you are told there are 250 or 46,000, a quarter million dead people in a register that has been around for 10 years, what reason do you have to doubt? Would you doubt that? If you are told there is double registration, it is something that happens in an exercise of this magnitude. And if you are told, for example, that there were some games here and there in terms of registration transfers, again, it's something that can be explained. So if you look at the columns, in terms of the numbers, the category of issues, if they are either dead voters or double registration or registering using wrong, I'm sure if I check with my passport, I'm not on the list until I use a new passport number.
Right.
So there are cases like those. I have not seen anything to raise alarm. I think the explanations they are giving are valid, because this can happen. I haven't seen anything really fishy. Okay. And somebody will help us understand, because it's very clear. This category, either dead voters, so many. What has been done? This. This category, so many. So far, what has been done, a certain percentage of that has been dealt with, something like that. So I think it's...
Let's take a look at those numbers, even as we also introduce Joshua Kipto, the Speaker of Nandi County, as he joins us. Let's take a look at the statistics as released by one Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairman, in regards to the register of voters. Do you have that? Right, so the Kenyans with IDs, that is 27.8 million. The registered voters out of that are 22.1 million. So that means there's a gap of about 5 million Kenyans. Something else to look at is there are some counties that were affected by abnormal transfers that had to be reversed by IEBC. They include Wajir, Nairobi, Nakuru, Murang'a, Nyandarua, Kakamega. There are other counties. Fine, so we'll get to the other list of those other counties, but the voters in prisons, like I told you, they have increased from 5,000 to 7,483, and also from other quarters. And so for you, Joshua, as you look at those resolutions or the resolving of the challenges that IBC was talking about alongside KPMG, are you confident now we're going to have a clean register that can be believed, including what he's saying that in this election there will be no physical register for identifying voters?
Sammy, I still have a problem, but with the IBC releasing these statistics and showing Kenyans that these are the number of registered voters, that is procedural. We have no problem with that. But the means and the processes under which this was done should have been, you should have involved the public. I mean, public participation in terms of probably even disclosing what were the terms of reference for the KPMG. What was KPMG exactly supposed to do? I mean, Kenya should have been told from the onset, auditing of the voters register is healthy, is something that is good. Good in the sense that we are cleaning the voters register, and you saw in 2007 with the Crackler's, commission, where they were looking at the issues that affected the 2007 general elections. And one of the recommendations was the Kenyans needed to register afresh. Right. And there should be periodic cleaning of the voters register. So this was very, very okay. But now when you look at the increased number of voters being removed from the voters register for various reasons. I mean, those factors, are genuine. But now the numbers is too high. I mean, even when you look at the increase of the voters from 2013, which we are about 14 million, 14.8 million, and in 2017, 19 million, and now 22.1 million. Yeah. So you look at that, there is a discrepancy. You look at those increase rates, you look at those percentages, the growth is a bit, for me, it doesn't add up. There was a leap, and then now slow. We are being told the youth did not come forth. I've just looked at the statistics that 29.6 million Kenyans are with IDs, yes, and only 22.1 are the ones who have registered to be voters, where these 7.5 million Kenyans with IDs. And of course, I had alluded to say that it's not compulsory to register as a voter in our country. But more importantly, is this point where in this country we witness what is called voter suppression. Voter suppression in the sense that for you to register as a voter, you must have the national identity card or a valid Kenyan passport. Look at the processes under which newly registered Kenyans into adulthood, when they attain the age of 18. Right. The IDs that have remained uncollected. Probably the process of enabling these young Kenyans to register and get IDs is not very, enabling, in some areas of our country. And I can see from even those areas that have been mentioned there, like the hardship areas of Wajir. It is public knowledge that getting an ID there is not very easy because you have to be vetted. Because you just said that certain IDs that are yet to be collected, isn't it the responsibility of the citizen? You go to register, go pick your ID. Oh yeah, it is the responsibility of the citizen, but the facilitator is the duty bearer. This person, right from the national government to that lower level where we have the assistant chief and the chief. Because these are the people who mobilize and even give government information to the citizens of the availability of these voters. But what impresses me in this, release by the IEBC is the increase of 5.2, polling stations. From 46,000 from 40,000 to 46. I think that is enabling. But I think there is something that we still need to interrogate is these 1,111 polling stations that do not, which IBC has told us that is not covered by 3G and 4G network. Joshua, hold it there so that we can continue with that as soon as your namesake joins us on set. That is Joshua Kipto, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Nandi. We're taking a short break. We'll continue this conversation, especially on the preparations by IEBC, how convincing they are and what more needs to be done to secure the election to being free, fair, credible, verifiable, and all those other adjectives of an election. Stay tuned.